You're listening to Jesus Unfiltered with Eddie D and Nicole. On our first episode, we discuss why we left Macedonia First Baptist Church and the impact that it had on our faith walk with Christ. Now, Jesus Unfiltered with Eddie D and Nicole.
What's up, everybody? I'm Eddie D.
I'm Nicole.
And welcome to our brand new podcast. Don't know what it's called yet. We will figure that out as time goes on. But we've been talking a lot about wanting to get back into some form of talking about the Lord, talking about Jesus, and sharing our conversations with you all. And so this is the start of that. And so I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to be able to share, our love of God and our love of Christ with you all. We wanted to do so in a way that was more honest and true, not just to church, but just to the experience of God itself. And so, so that's kind of, where we're going with it. I don't have like a mission statement or anything that I can think of to say what we're doing, but I do know why, and I'll get to that in a minute. You want to say anything?
No, I don't have anything to say. Just let's get started.
Okay, so today what we wanted to do to start this podcast off is to talk about our experience of the last church that that I pastored, and what our time was like there, and what led to us eventually leaving from that church, and in that kind of give you guys an inside look into, I guess the life of a pastor, life of pastoring, but to give you guys the real, and not coming from a petty place, but coming from an honest place of what that experience is like. Nicole had asked if there was like a scripture that we be coming from per se that would kind of cap everything, and the scripture that I had in mind is the scripture that rings true to what Nicole has always said to me in our life together, and so I'm gonna read the scripture, then tell you what she said, and then kind of move forward from there. Romans chapter 1 verses 16 and 17 say, "I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. For in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith for faith, as it is written, the righteous shall live by faith." And so something Nicole had always said to me throughout, I think, man, it's been a long time, probably, I don't know if it was 2014, 2015, or whenever you had said it, but you had said to me that people don't know what they need until they hear it. And you coupled that by saying, people aren't ready to hear the true gospel of Jesus Christ, at least the people in the circles that we were in. And so there was always a level of excitement that came to being able to share the word of God with others, because for me, knowing what we know about God, and knowing what we know about Christ, and knowing what we know about the freedom and the experience of Him, it was something that's always brought my heart joy, and it's something I always wanted to share with everybody and share with as many people as I could. And because of that, being able to be a pastor, in my mind, was one of the greatest ways to do that. And so when Macedonia called us back in 2017, like, that was one of the biggest moments I felt like in my life, in that I thought that this was the opportunity to really share the gospel the way that in a big way, to finally have a church backing us preaching the true, unadulterated, unfiltered gospel, and to be able to do so in a way that was very different from most of the churches, if not all the churches that we had been a part of, had attended. And so for me, being the pastor of Macedonia was an opportunity, not just to be a pastor, because I didn't want to just sit and be a pastor of a church, but I wanted to share the gospel and to share it in a way that I knew would help people to be free. And so, for those 3 years that we were there, it was anything but freedom. It's anything but freedom. We taught a lot, and we preached a lot, and we shared a lot. But if anybody asks me, we got the Isaiah assignment. We got the, you're going to preach, but they ain't going to hear you. You're going to teach, but they ain't going to care. And they're not going to hear you when you tell them the truth about God. And so, for those 3 years, we thought we at least for 2 of them, we thought that we were making headway and making momentum in a way that was, pushing the gospel forward. But in that particular place, it was not being heard. And so, when they gave me that letter in January 2021 and said that, they wanted to have a conversation with me because they felt like I wasn't teaching Christian principles. When I talked to my dad about it, he was like, dude, they're rejecting the gospel at this point. So you gotta go ahead and dust your feet off and move on, because they're not hearing the word. When they start questioning you preaching the word, that's when it's time to go. And so, summing it all up, that was really the launching, the linchpin for me that let me know that it was time to go. And so, but that's again the short version. So I'm gonna let you jump in and.
Oh, you didn't tell it at all. Like, I don't really have much more to say, because I feel like if I say more, it's more of bashing, and I don't want to bash. I'm not here to bash anybody, any church. Just, I was happy when you said, you were done, because I think that I had been done. But I was there strictly for you. I think that's how much of a ride and die I am. And so I was there for you, and I was I was ready to go a long time before. I think I had even gotten out of a lot of things and stopped doing certain things. Because I just didn't agree with, I just didn't, my spirit didn't feel right with being there. And I couple it along with, thinking about our girls and, having them, see and hear, and then go out and think that is right. Like, we can teach them so many things, but somehow, all these different versions of the truth find a way in people's hearts and minds. And so I was very happy when you said you were done. When you said you were done and why you were done, like, I really just wanted to be there when it all happened. because at that time, and I can say this now, at that time, Nikki was not going to hold back.
Right.
So, and I'm grateful that everything happened. I'm not going to say the way it happened, but it just let us see the truth in a lot of things. Like, we know the church is not perfect, and you have to be more specific when you talk about the church, because a lot of days people aren't specific, because people think the church is the building and it's not the building. And I think that's where we sometimes fall short, is trying to keep up the building and protect the building. Who comes in and out of the building, how you come in and out of the building, what you find very sacred in the building, and what you can't touch in the building, and all this and that. And we lose sight of the true meaning of what church is. And I think that is where, my heart just didn't sit right with some of the things that, they wanted us to do and wanted us to be. And I I didn't sit well with that. My spirit didn't sit well with that. And if I didn't, then why would we subject our girls to that? If we can help it. I know that we can't, protect them and keep them from everything, but what we can, we will. But yeah, those are my feelings on it. Like, I knew it was going to be difficult going in, because I didn't know the church, but I kind of knew the church. But the honeymoon phase is real in a lot of situations. And so when you're in something for a while, you can really start to see, like, as time goes, you can really start to see people's true colors come out.
No, keep going.
You can really start to see people's true colors come out. And so I am a very quiet person. I sit, I watch, like, I am very observant, and I have found that out about myself and accepted that about myself. And sometimes it could be good, and sometimes it could, I don't know, like, make stuff hit the fan. And so when I see things that don't sit well with me, I guess what I have been working on a lot lately is, like, when to speak up and when to shut up, how to say things, and how to approach people, how to say things to people, to where it doesn't come off as I'm rude, I guess. But that's one of the things I've been working on about myself, and I think back then I wasn't there. I had come a long ways, but no, I did really good, especially in one of the meetings.
You did really good. Let's call a spade a spade, man. You did really
I still have to get the facial.
No, but that face was perfect. No, listen, this woman got a death stare that will kill you if you ain't careful. Like,
because my face will say stuff. My face will say things that my
very
mouth
smoldering
wants to say. And I think I've been trying to work on that too, because I've even heard it from you and the girls.
You listen. You got that? It's that look. It's that look.
I mean, hey, but I mean, once again, I'm grateful that we are where we are right now. It's been a journey. It's been rough. It's been tough, and I think what people don't realize is you really have to protect your soul, you guys, like. And not just from other people, but from the church. Because I was talking with someone not too long ago who came at me the wrong way. And, I basically let them know it's not just about them, and it's not just about me, but I'm trying to protect my soul and my girl's soul, and trying to teach them and show them, certain things. And so if I have to, like, cut people out of my life or cut things out of my life, then that's what I'm gonna do. And so that's not just with people around you, but that's the church as well. Like, you have to you have to protect yourself, you know what I'm saying? Let me protect it under God, but No,
but let me piggyback off that, because that was one of the things that really hurt me the most. One of the things that hurt me the most about being there, because one of the things that you and I both went into that church wanted to do was, in the sense of being different, is allowing ourselves to be transparent. A lot of pastors and a lot of churches, they don't allow you to touch the pastor. Like, they're such an untouchable person, especially when they become celebrity pastors, or they're well-known pastors, or they're big in the community. They can become so untouchable that you can't talk to them. There's always some type of, like, avenue you have to go through.
You can't do certain things.
You can't hang out certain places. You got to be the pastors are put in special places, like when you do anniversaries and things. The pastors are put in special places, like when you do anniversaries and things like that. There's always a pastor's table, or a pastor's seat or something. And one of the things that we went in wanting to do was making ourselves so transparent with them, because we wanted them to know that we're human too, and that we all got a race to run, and that we're running the race together. And so one of the things that really hurt me the most was how often that backfired on me, because who I thought my bad, y'all. I have to learn to turn that off, but in trying to be transparent with them, like, you know, one of the things that hurt me so bad was that, you know, in being transparent with them, like, there are so many times that backfired on us, because they in turn would go and talk amongst themselves about things that they did not come to me about. And I would either have to find out through the grapevine and then go to a meeting, or just be ambushed in a meeting. And so a lot of times, you know, we tell them, hey, talk to me, share with me, tell me what's going on. We're human too. We got feelings, we got emotions, we're not perfect, we're trying to run this race together. And every single time I get the same old responses of, well, I don't trust you because in the last pastors that we had, they burned me. And it's like, but dude, I'm not them, you know, but you're treating me like I am them, and that's not fair to me. And yet they never looked at themselves and said, hey, God, help me on that, while I, you know, trust that he told me to be transparent. And so you're absolutely right when you say we have to protect ourselves, or we feel like we have to protect ourselves, which is sad to me, because it's like, as a church, that's one of the church is supposed to be the one place we can be vulnerable. It's supposed to be the one place where we can be transparent, where we can share our burdens and share our issues and share our problems and be able to deal with them as a church body. But in too many churches and too many places, the pastor is looked up to be this king, and at the slightest error or the slightest mistake, he's torn down and torn apart. And the people who, you know, who again we told, bring it to us, you know, you got free reign here, bring it to us, they refused to do so. And in doing so, they burned us so many times that when they burned us the final time, we were almost like, thank you. Because it's like, okay, thank you for burning me this last time, because it only gave us not the ammunition, but it gave us the green light we needed to get up and leave.
Yeah, and it's different when you have it's different when you have these conflicts, you know, with maybe like a congregation member or people in, you know, the church. But when you have these accusations and all of these false statements being said amongst, you know, deacons and deaconess and the, you know, clerks and all that kind of stuff, I feel like it's different, because I feel like there should be transparency there. If I can have transparency on my job, you know, with my boss who can come to you and you alone, yes, who can come to you and tell you, you know, something's not right, I respect that. You know what I'm saying? We could talk about that, and, you know, if something's wrong, we could talk about how I could fix that, you know. But when you have people who don't do that, who say, you know, they're Christians and all that kind of stuff, I feel like it's different, and something is just not clicking there. So yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And so it's like, that was one of the biggest hurdles that was so hard to overcome. And in so many instances, like with so many different situations, it was the same thing every single time. You waited till the last minute to want to say something, or you waited until you had enough ammunition to then come with your boys, or come with your posse and say, you know, hey, we got problems with you. They said, but it's like, who is they? I can't say. I don't want to, you know, but here it is, all these accusations, is like all these things, and I tell people this all the time.
High school, middle school.
Yes, man. I told them, like, we could have went to a restaurant. We could have hashed this out of the restaurant, ate some wings, and been done with this. Like this didn't require church meetings. This didn't require votes. None of that. All it required was a conversation over the phone, via text. Again, making ourselves so touchable, so that way, if they did have a problem, trying to do what Scripture tells us to do. Go if you have an ought against your brother, no matter who it is. It be your brother, your cousin, your auntie, pastor, bishop, whoever. If you have an ought against your brother, you go to him and him alone.
And I think that's why I love. We're gonna go to a different church tomorrow, but because of a reason. But I think that's why I like Cross Point so much, is because nobody there seems untouchable. Like,
right.
You have the pastor who is always, conversating out in the lobby, and who will even come up to you. You have, the music ministry leader, who's also a pastor, I believe, who will come up and conversate with you and ask you questions and talk to you. The people who sing and play instruments, who nobody there seems untouchable, and that to me speaks church. That to me speaks family. Friendship. Like, you can talk to me like I am not above all. And so I think that that's why I like Cross Point so much. But as far as what I wanted to kind of talk about was the whole conflicts in the church. And so I want to read something.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to read something. It's called it's by a guy, Mark Bernard, and he wrote this and used a person who wrote a book called, his name is Dr. Kenneth Quick, and the book is called The Dance of the Gifts, How Ministry Leaders Can Discern God's Will. And the title of this article is called When Churches Eat Their Own.
Ooh.
I like that title. Ooh. Yeah. Think about it. Sit on it. All right. So I'm gonna kind of go like a little bit further into the reading and read a little bit, because So it says the controversy in the Galatian church was a heated one. That's what this is talking about. They taught that non-Jewish believers need to be circumcised to gain eternal life. Their teachings also held the promise of lessening persecution by non-believing Jews. Paul writes the letter of the Galatians to refute this false teaching. But as most church conflicts, sinful behavior, assumptions, and choices amplify, such as controversies, if the leaders get caught up in and are not sensitive to the Spirit of God. The way the Galatian leaders reacted threatened to damage the church as much as the initial dispute. Paul beseeches the leaders in congregation to engage with the Holy Spirit amid the controversy. He uses 3 phrases that are worth exploring, especially if your church is struggling with conflict right now. The first one is walk by the Spirit. So what does it look like to walk by the Spirit during a church conflict? The word walk refers to how we comport ourselves, our behavior. It's almost easier to describe what that doesn't look like, which is what I like. Hypersensitivity to opposition, assuming the worst motives on their part, knee-jerking reactions, and acting in the flesh. And, okay, hold up before I say something. In the heat of the controversy, it only takes a nanosecond, which is so true. It only takes a nanosecond for the precious fruit of the Spirit Paul describes, Galatians 5:22-23, to wither. Walking by the Spirit means crucifying self, seeking His enablement, and maintaining one's objectivity as he or she is sustained by the peace that passes understanding. I'll say the other two in just a minute. But that part is so true to me, to walk by the Spirit, because it only takes a split second for you to fall out of line. And I'm not perfect, and so I know that split second can happen just like that. But I thank God that God gives me a different way. I deal with, I guess, controversy a little bit different. I deal with conflict a little bit different. I deal with arguments a little bit different. I am an emotional person, and I come to my truth with that, and to accept that about me, and I come to accept why, and I'm okay with this. I think I am such an emotional person because if I'm not emotional, I think that I will kind of flip the script, and I cry when I am mad or angry. When I'm mad or angry, and I think that's a good thing on my part. And in my walk with God, it has really, I believe, it has stopped me from falling out of line. Because when I cry, I can't really talk. And I think that some of the things that I could have felt, I probably didn't feel them like that because I wasn't solely thinking about that, but thinking about how I was feeling instead of what I wanted to say. But that part, walking by the Spirit, is so true. I really believe that in any conflict, think first, then do. I've even talked with, the girls who I coach at school, with your emotions. A lot of times we may get in a place where somebody does something to us where we don't really like it, and we kind of want to go off the deep end. And so we just learned this past week, to stop, breathe, think about your choices, respond to the situation, and then review what happened, And I think that's a good strategy to use in anything, because it helps us. Want to say anything before I keep going?
You got it.
I'm sorry. All right, the second one, I'm going to go real fast. Be led by the Spirit. The difference between walking by and being led by the Spirit may seem slight, but if you're going to walk by the Spirit's enabling, you must have a sense where He will take you and be willing, even committed to go, because the path may not be easy. Which, when you said, you feel like we got that assignment, you have to be willing. That song seeps in my heart. Will your heart and mind and soul say yes? Mm-hmm. No matter what. It may require humility. It may require the tough work of reconciliation. Being led by the Spirit includes recognizing God's providence in your church's controversy, that there may be a larger reason God has allowed the church and its leaders to experience the pain of controversy, to expose attitudes or immaturity that might be under the surface. Sometimes we get so caught up in church crisis, we neglect to discern God's purpose for allowing it. And I think that is so true too, because, when we went through what we went through, like, we didn't just see, I guess, fault in them or issues with them, but, we also looked at ourselves. And I think sometimes we forget to do that as Christians when somebody has wronged us. We forget to look at ourselves as well. So, I pray that they've done that, and, I'm not going to follow up probably, but being led by the Spirit. So the last one he said was live by the Spirit. When Paul reminds the Galatians and us that we live by the Spirit, he hopes we will recall the grace of God revealed in our salvation from our deep sinfulness, the very issue at stake in the Galatian church. We were made alive by the Spirit's regenerative powers. The danger is that our salvation testimony can be compromised by the ungracious way we treat others during a church controversy. So we got to be careful, even when people, wrong us and, slander our names. And I will say that the way some things were said, and what was said, and all that, and how it was done, and why it was done, like, I really, I feel like I really believe that God was in us, because we, it was wrong.
It was nasty.
It was nasty. And that's just being honest. But the response to it all, I believe was a miracle.
Yeah.
Because I know you and I'm very proud of you. But I will say that it did some damage.
Oh, absolutely.
It did some damage to the heart. It did some damage to the soul. And I really wish that people in church would realize, like, it doesn't matter the position you're in. Like, nobody is untouchable. And so when you think that you can, go in and say what you want to say and do what you want to do and think that it won't hurt the feelings, pastors are not supermen or super women, and so they are affected by the things that people do and what people say. So I just really wish that people would take that into consideration. Nobody's emotions, nobody is untouchable in that way, and so yeah.
No, and you saying that, it reminded me of another one of the issues that that we had to deal with. There was just the outright lies. When we first got there, we had made a commitment that we didn't want to make any big changes in the church. We didn't want to do anything to change the church at all, because we know how churches can be. Just like you said, they have their calves, and they have their statues and their shrines and their tokens, and we didn't want to change anything. But when we walked into that place, let's call a spade a spade. It's a museum. It is a straight up museum. And like I say, they can get frustrated if they want to, but the reality is the reality. Like, the church is a museum. And so when we first got in there, everything is just a shrine to the first pastor that was there and the greatest pastor of all time in their eyes. And I can't remember their names, and I don't care. And so, as we're walking through and going through the different auxiliaries and the different ministries there, we told them we're not going to make any changes. I'm just going to make observations. I'm going to go to meetings. I'm going to talk to people, ask them questions, figure things out. And then when we get to a certain point, I'm going to present them with the issues and present them with a plan of how we can go about making things better. And all the while, they're saying, yes, pastor, yes, pastor, let's do that, let's do this, yes, whatever you say, da 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 da. And so when we get to like the 6.5 month mark, I tell them, okay, tell me how fast you want me to drive this car. Because if you want me to drive this car slow, I will drive this car slow. We won't make any changes for the next 5 years for all I care. But if you tell me I got the green light, I'm going to drive this thing. And we're going to drive it to where we need to go. And, after I presented them with the problems, the problems of there being too many auxiliaries, not enough people, getting burned out, being tired, literally saying the words, I'm tired, and wanting more help and not doing, and all this kind of stuff. And so it's like, okay, cool. So what we need to do is we need to pare it down. We need to pare everything down, redivide the auxiliaries up, so that way it frees people up and gives people an opportunity to start to actually grow in their ministries and grow in their opportunities rather than being strung out so thin. They, again, gave me the green light. Go, pastor, do it, go. I'm like, okay, are you sure? Are you sure? Because I don't need to do this today. I don't need to do this. No, pastor, we agree. Let's go. I'm like, cool. I'm thinking, oh my God, God done gave me a green light. This is weird, but okay, here we go. So we start going about making all the different changes and restructuring things, and I'm having the meetings and sharing all the information, giving people all the facts. Everything's transparent. Once again, everything's on the table. I'm not trying to be, this secretive person. Everybody knows everything. We wasted so much paper. We made so many prints, so many revisions. When we finally get to the point, we get to year 2, and here we are about to implement the plan, and all of a sudden, all these complaints and all these problems and all these issues they finally come up to the surface. Issues that no one had expressed before. Never said anything to me. Even to the point of saying, when I told them, but y'all said y'all were tired. That's the very person who said she wasn't tired then said in that meeting, I never said I was tired. Bruh, you gaslighting me now. So you gaslighting me because I was there when you said I'm tired.
I mean, there was a lot of that though. There
was
was a lot of doing just because it's already been done.
Already been done this way.
Even if you knew biblically that this wasn't
sound.
It's just being done because it's what's been
done.
And so
when we told them we didn't want pastor's anniversary because the people, what happens, these churches come in, the pastor don't know me from Adam, but he'll get up there and lie saying this is my good friend, we've been friends for years. I didn't want that.
Which is why you had
Aaron come. That's why I had Aaron come, because Aaron's actually my friend. He's actually my dog. Like, hey, if he's watching, Aaron, you my brother. We gotta catch up. But for real, like, that's why he preached my installation, because I didn't want anybody up there who didn't know me spiritually, who didn't know me. And so, that's why when we had the church anniversary, I wanted to bring new people in. I was tired of the same people being brought into these churches all the time and saying all these lies about this, that, and the third. And let's bring in some new blood. Let's bring in some real gospel preachers, or let's figure out whether or not they preach the gospel in the first place. I've never heard them before. And let's really make this thing about the gospel and not about a popularity contest. Because again, they are all about legacy. All about, putting their name in the paper and putting their name in the history books and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, in all of that, they forgot Jesus. They forgot about him. And so when we're presenting them with the gospel, presenting them with Jesus, they were rejecting it left and right, to the point where they outright tried to gaslight both you and me when it came to the things we wanted to do, when it came to the things that we presented to them, and when it came to the conversations they were having with us. Because it's like, I sat here in these meetings with y'all. We had these conversations over the phone, through text message, through Facebook, that these are the things that you wanted. And so when we present them to you, now you're acting like we're trying to take stuff from you. And it's like, but no, you asked for this. And so, that year 2 was what started all of the issues and problems, because from that point, it's like, okay, so now we see y'all really ain't about what you say you're about. So now we got to figure out what's really going on. And at that point, everything really started to unravel. And like you said, we're seeing the true colors of people, and we're praying for them, but it's coming at a heavy cost on us. Like, the prayers that we're sending up to God, and the issues and the problems that are showing up to the surface, it's like, it was so much, and it was so heavy, to where by the time I had the one of the last meetings I had with them, not the last one, but one of the last meetings I had with them, like, at that point, I told them straight up, as your pastor, I can't defend you anymore. I can't defend you. Because every time we come out of these meetings, you guys keep dragging your feet. And you keep trying to blame, and I got to be the one to take the blame. I can't keep doing that for y'all. Like, at some point, like, at this point. Yeah. So at this point, if they're coming to me and telling me and asking me why we're not doing this or why we're not doing that, I'm going to point them to y'all. Because at this point, you're dragging your feet, but you're okay. Because nobody's bothering you about it. They're bothering me about it. They're questioning me about it. And I'm the one looking like I'm dragging my feet. When all the while, here I am with all the plans, all the papers, all the revisions, handing them to you guys. And it was so bad, they weren't even looking at the stuff until the meeting. They had this stuff 3 weeks in advance. And they wait till the meeting. You want to be like, okay, so let's go through it. What you mean go through it? What do you mean? No, you should have been went through this stuff. And so again, it's like, all the while, and maybe that was where the fault lied with me. I don't think it did, but in the midst of all of that, I know, I'm not going to say the fault was with me. I kept asking the question, where is Jesus in this? Where is he in this? Because at this point, I couldn't see him. Even when it came down to the whole tithing thing and going through the book of 2 Corinthians in that moment, I was, again, asking the same question over and over again, where is Jesus in this? when it came down to their bylaws and the first rule of membership being pay tithes. Where is Jesus in that? So you ain't got to be saved to be a member of the church. You ain't gotta have a relationship with the Lord to be a member of the church. You got to pay tithes
and dress
appropriately. You know, that's the qualifications for membership at that church. And so it's like, again, where is Jesus in that? And so for a while, you know, what we were trying to present to them was the truth and the gospel, and it showed, and it basically, like I said, the Isaiah mission fell on deaf ears, and we messed with their idols. We messed with what they held true to themselves, and as a result, we got so much blowback from that, so much hurt, so much pain, so much vitriol, so many lies, so many accusations, so many blows to our character, to the point where it's like they ostracized us.
Yeah, and it comes to a point where, you know, you have to, you know, one, not just protect your soul, but then protect you and your family as a whole. So when you're saying things that could have a blow on you physically, that's where I'm like, okay, you're saying things now that if that gets out, and even though it's not true, people can believe what they want to believe. You can have people trying to come for us.
Right.
And so when you start saying things that start to mess with us as a whole, to where something can be physically done to us, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Cannot abide.
And so that's when, you know, you have to start. It wasn't that, you know, we were trying to be on the defense mode, but when you start doing things like that, it's almost like you start to go into that little hole of being defensive, because you, like, I don't know, some of the things that were said could have had some really, like, hard major blowback, and like we got kids. You know, I think we can hold our own, you know, come for us, but, you know, like, I'm not trying to scar my children to try to make y'all happy. I'm not trying to do that. But
no.
But I will say that it's not, and the thing is, I think what hurt me the most and what is so sad to me is that, you know, what was done there is done out in the world every day. And so I think that when you have people who are not saved come into a church like that, into a church building like that, it's like you're just continuing that cycle.
The same cycle. There's no interruption.
But when you have people, I guess it could go two ways. When you have people who come into a church like that, they may feel at home, which is even sadder. But then when you have people who are really coming because they're broken and they really are looking for Jesus, they're looking for Jesus.
Hope, something.
But then when you
give them
bash them, you know, because of what they're wearing or because of how they look, it's
because
like,
of what they did last night.
Because of what they did last night, it's like you don't want to do that, because you want people to come as they are. It's not your job to change them. It's your job to give them Jesus and allow Jesus to do that work.
Because they don't know what they're looking for, and they don't know what they need until they hear it.
And so when you know you see people come and then you see things said or hear things said, God, if I can hear them being said, what makes you think that they're not going to hear it being said?
I'm in the pulpit hearing this stuff. I'm like, really?
So why would you stay? And so I really...
Man, it was so bad. It was so bad. Like, we had people join the church, literally join the church, and then never see them again. That's how bad it was. Like, we'd have people give hand to church, God the heart, all that jazz, and we never see them again. Because
conversated with one of them for a little while, but you know, it just makes my heart sad. That, you know, this is what's being done in churches. In churches. And once again, I really love Crosspoint, and I love that, you know, they welcome you. But for a minute, when we first went there, sometimes I still feel like, okay, like, where is it?
Where's the ball? Where's the ball gonna drop?
Where's the switch gonna happen?
And I think that's what I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's what's been the hindrance for me to join another church. Like, because you know my heart. Like we go.
It really, it affected you really.
Yeah,
really,
no, for real,
really bad.
It did.
And people don't realize that when you're in the church and you think that you're safe, but then something happens where you're not.
You're paranoid.
You're paranoid, and
man, like
you're broken,
you're
hurt.
Okay, because I kept saying the same thing. Okay, this is what's gonna happen, and I remember. I think I told you this. I told several other people this about my walk with God. At this point, I feel like I'm the harbinger of death. For real. Like, I feel like, okay, I'm gonna walk into this church, right? I'm going to join this church. I'm going to get in some ministry. They're going to find out I'm a preacher. They're going to put me in preaching. I'm going to see something wrong. I'm going to address the issue. They're going to make me out to be a pariah. I'm going to be the harbinger of death. I'm going to talk, y'all, we're doing this wrong, and we need to get back on center. And we're going to end up getting ostracized and kicked out this church too. Like, I just felt like that was going to be a repeated pattern, because it's happened so many times.
And see, the thing is, it's not, and let me clarify this, it's not that you're going in looking for problems.
Right!
And it's not that, you go in and if you see something, you say something wanting them to change it. You say something wanting to get clarification of why things are done.
Why are we doing it this way?
And I think that is the problem where a lot of churches fall, is that they don't want to be asked questions.
You're questioning.
And you think that
how dare you question God?
Questioning your heart.
Your heart.
Your
and it's like, no, I'm not questioning that. Like, here it is an issue. Just like we said with what was it? When we talked about the pulpit, this pulpit, like, why am I up here? Why am I up here? Like, I'm so distant from y'all. Why am I up here? And they made such a big deal out of that. Moving furniture, made such a big deal about that. Doing Bible study, when we did Bible study, made such a big deal out of it. Like, every time we just questioning why are we doing things where we're doing them, they thought that we were questioning faith. It's like, no. We're questioning practice, not the faith. We're questioning practices. And I
think that questioning things is a good thing.
It's a good thing, especially when you're trying to reach people, because that was always the thing for me. Because they said, we want to reach the young people, we want to bring the youth in, we want to try to get the college people in, but we look like we're back in 1945.
So my thing is, why do you want to bring them in?
Right. And
I seen,
yeah,
like, you didn't have to tell me why, because I seen it, and it brought back flashbacks of, but I seen it, it's when they come in, you work, you do this,
and work the way we want you to work,
and work the way we want you to work. Don't come in and sit under someone to learn about God, to learn about Jesus, to learn about your faith. Ask questions to them, like, why do you want this? Why do you want? Why are you here?
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because I feel like once you
put them to work,
once you figure that out, I feel like
the works will come. The works will come. But that was a very good point, because I remember every church that we had been to, more or less, they were doing the same thing. Like, you're here, we're gonna put you in the ministry. You sing. We're gonna put you in the choir. We need ushers. We're gonna put you in the ushers.
Not figure out why you're here.
No, we're not gonna look at your soul. We're not gonna orient you to God.
I feel like it's kind of backwards. We're gonna make you work, and then
the word will come.
The word
will come. No, we know. So we're not worried about your soul. We're worried about your body. We're worried about your talents. We want your talents. Because how often have we said this joker's talented, but what about his soul?
Yeah, because I remember you saying, we were at a church a while back, I'm not going to say the name, but at a church a while back, and I remember you talking about the girl who was a spiritual dancer, and she danced amazing.
Amazing dance.
She was so amazing.
So amazing.
And you had a conversation with her
immediately afterward.
What did she say?
She said, "Y'all know what?"
Wait. Before she said that, You have everybody in here. Oh, the blood,
So
like
anointed.
she is so anointed.
So anointed.
Like,
She's so gifted. She's so full of the Spirit.
God's grace is falling on
falling
her.
upon
and
her.
Mind you, it is.
It
because
is.
His grace falls on
whoever it falls on. His word's not going to go out and return void.
But they're thinking that she's something.
That she's special. That she's gifted. That she's anointed with Spirit.
All the while,
she told us, I'm only dancing to get a scholarship from the church.
It had nothing to do with.
And furthermore, said she knew she was going to hell. Knew it.
And that hurts, where people come in the church and we as a whole want to just put them to work and not want to see where their soul is, their heart, what are they thinking, why are they here, what made them come.
That's just like when we did the orientation. We did orientation class. The last class of that class was ministries. The first 7 parts of the class were about God, the gospel, what it means for your soul, the works of the Spirit. The what do we call them? We call them the faith works, prayer, meditation, all that kind of stuff. Like we went through a whole 7 parts of that, and then the last part was ministries in the church.
Came up with. That's what.
That's what I'm saying. Came up with that because we didn't want to do that though. Because again, it doesn't do church any good. It's not good for the church. So again, it's like you're neglecting the people while claiming you want people, and the people can feel that. That's the thing. Like we underestimate the power of the people and their heart spaces and head spaces. It's why they go to these churches that preach false doctrines.
But do you know why they feel that? Because it just came from out of the world.
Only to jump right back in.
They're feeling what they felt
out there. Felt. Like, I'm getting judged out there.
Hurts.
Came in here and got judged the same way. So what's the point? What's the point? And so they'll end up going to these churches that make them feel good in the moment because they'll accept them for who they are, but they're not.
You need to change tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow you need to dress different. You need to talk different. You need to walk different. You need to eat different.
Yeah.
You need to let go of people.
And you need to speak.
Tomorrow.
You need to speak the language of highly favored and blessed thou and all that kind of stuff.
That needs to be done tomorrow.
Right. And so they'll go into these other churches that accept them for who they are, but they're not leading. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them. But they're not leading them to true transformation in their souls. But because they feel welcome. They got the welcome part right. They get the welcome part right, but they don't do anything for the soul. And so they'll gladly give their money, their time, their resources all away. And they're still serving a faulty God in some places, not in all places. Because they're, like we say, Cross Point is a really good example of them. They got it right as far as I can tell, And so, it's like we want it to be that church, the church that says, come on, man, just get in the door.
Let me take you to dinner.
Get in the door. Let's have a conversation. Can we just get them in the door? Can we get them in the door? Let God do His work. Let the word, the gospel, this unfiltered, unadulterated gospel
lead you so that they can be led.
Right.
But I think that we want to do it so much ourselves, and we forget, and so we want them to continue the traditions of old as if the traditions were what Jesus followed. He didn't follow any of this Baptist doctrine. He didn't follow any of this, you pick the denomination. When Jesus came, it was just Jesus. That's it. He didn't say follow Baptist. He said follow me. Follow me. Not the codes, not the creeds, not the doctrines. Me. And we try to give them that because that's where freedom is. That's where liberty is. That's where salvation is. That's where peace is. That's where love and joy is. But oh my gosh, C.S. Lewis said it. They'd rather make mud pies in the backyard
and neglect the fact that a day at the beach is being offered to them. I'm content with making my mud pies in the backyard, and up for right. And a lot of churches are like that. And again, that's what we ran up against. Despite the fact that they were telling us every Sunday, "Oh, you preached a good sermon today. Oh, that was a real good sermon you preached."
What was it about?
I don't know. Real good sermon you preached, though.
And not everybody was like that.
We had. But again,
the sad part is, it to me, leadership should be
leadership.
I don't know. That's who I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it, but the fact that it's in the church that, you know, you should feel that you think you would feel safe and think you would feel accepted, and, you know, think you can be led in a godly way, but when you are when you're cut, you know, by people who should be keeping you safe, like you really do get paranoid, and you look over your shoulder, and you don't want to do anything, and you don't want to be there. And if you make leadership feel that way, how do you think people walking in the door are going to feel, you know? And so I just really pray that, you know, churches that are, you know, welcoming people and bringing people in, you know, don't just let that be a one-time thing of how you treat them, but, you know, bring them in.
Lifestyle, man.
Let it be a lifestyle. It's almost like, you know, how I might be comparing apples to oranges right now, but how when people like go on these diets and fasts and stuff like that, trying to, I don't know, lose weight and get healthy, but then when that diet ends, you know, you go right back to what you were doing. It's a lifestyle. Like it can't just be that one time thing or that 1 week thing, because people notice that. People, I mean, you think that, you know, godly people's discernment is on point. Like, I mean, people out in the world, they can smell you a mile away.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Can.
And so when people left, how they left, you know, but then kind of still stayed in contact with us, it's like, you know, it wasn't a surprise, but it was a surprise, because if they do it to you, then what makes you think that they're not going to do it to the next person, you know, that walks in that door, who says, "This is all I had to wear today," you know, and I didn't want to come, but I came anyway. Thank God, you know, they came.
Showed up. You showed up.
That's not what a lot of people see.
No. And
you know, God showed us, like He revealed so much to us, and I guess it was just hurtful. It was shocking, and
it hurt so much.
You know, to have people who come in as they are, not liking who they are and wanting to change, but then being ostracized because you still come that way. Like, what the heck?
What did you expect? What did you expect these people to do? They're not coming in their Sunday best. But
and it's not going to be, and that's my thing. It's not going to be overnight with anybody. I mean, if God can work that miracle if He wants to change overnight.
But even then, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You are there.
You're there.
That's what's most important.
There. Man, my mama. One of the things I love about my mom, you know, and maybe I got this from her. I don't know, but you know, there was a vacation Bible school that we had at Evergreen. And, Mom was in charge of food, and every day, you know, kids were coming in, they would get food, and then, you know, they take some to go take home. And some of the other people were getting upset about that, because, like, you're taking all this food, and she's like, but they're here.
Thank you.
But they're here. Why do you care that they're taking food home? This might be the one big meal for a whole week that they get. Maybe feeding brother, sister, mama, daddy. You don't know. So why are you getting frustrated? Or you're not eating the food anyway.
Exactly.
So why are you mad that they're taking food?
Away.
You want? Right. You're not gonna eat it. Let them take that pizza. You're not gonna eat that pizza. Let them take that ham sandwich. You're not gonna eat that ham sandwich. But you get so frustrated over little stuff. That's why they don't come back. That's why they don't come back. When that lady at the church told us that that last Christmas that we were there, when they had the little Christmas gathering or whatever, and nobody showed up. She had a whole hissy fit about it. Why didn't anybody show up? Because of you. And how you been treating them all year. And how you been talking about them and dogging them out and making them feel like they're less than nothing. I don't want to be here. Like, what do you mean? If I don't want to be here, I know they don't want to be here. Like, it's like, you know, they failed to see. You're hurting the very people that you say you want to come, but again, it goes back to what you said. What's your motive? What's your motive? And their motive was very clear. We want you to replicate what we've done. We don't want you to come in here and change. We don't want you to get to know the Lord.
And I think a lot of that, and I think a lot of where this comes from is, one, because change is scary.
Facts.
And two, because I feel like some churches believe that, you know, if they change, then they're becoming worldly. And that's not the case. You know, I can get where some change. I can get where some changes.
Romans chapter 1.
You know, you have to be careful with some of the changes that you do in church, and that you change around in church, because you can get to a point where you are becoming worldly. But you have to, I get change is inevitable. And so my thing is, like, you have to be willing and open-minded.
Yes.
And my thing is, ask questions. Like, if it's such a bother.
Guidance.
Yeah, if it's such a bother, if it's such an issue, ask questions.
Transparency, right? That's where we, and that's what we entertained. Even to the point where one time we literally had the whatever it is, the plan that we had a whole town hall about it.
No questions.
No questions were asked.
No questions.
None, because no one looked at the papers. Nobody did their homework. No one marked anything and said, "Hey, what about this? What about that?" It's just, "We agree with you, Pastor." No, you don't. But you don't. And the proof was in when it's time to implement. Like, all of a sudden, all the issues and the problems were coming up. As a result, it's just like, dude, y'all say that this is what you want, but you're acting contrary to that. And so it's like they miss people, man.
And that's what happens in the world as well.
Yes.
And I think that what we fail to realize is as churches, like, you are trying so hard not to become worldly, that you are becoming worldly with your actions and how you're thinking and what you're doing.
With your heart posture. With your heart posture. And that was the problem. That was the problem. Their heart posture is always bent toward something other than God.
It's tradition.
Something other than God. He said, "Seek first the kingdom." First the kingdom. But if your heart's turned to anything but the kingdom, this is what you're going to get. And yes, no church is perfect by any stretch. But if your heart posture is such to where you're always seeking the Lord, even when there's conflict, there will come resolution, because our desire is the same.
And I know that's true, and I know that to be true because of our marriage.
Come on now.
Posture. I know that.
Come on now.
Even with the
with
conflicts,
everything that we went through, our heart posture never changed.
And because
never
of that,
wavered.
God, and you know, God, it's in His will. Whatever He wants is either yes or it's no. Thank God for us, it was yes.
Yeah.
But it will fall into
everything
His will.
Alignment,
It'll be aligned. It will be, everything will work itself out the way He wants it to. If your heart,
the posture. That's why even when David I can't remember where it is, but David has said, in his word, like, creating me a clean heart and renewing me a righteous spirit within me. Like, and they called David a man after God's heart, because even when he made his mistakes and he did some shady things, but his heart's posture never wavered, to where even when he was called out, he didn't get mad with God. He said, "Oh, woe is me, I mucked up."
And I feel like that's a good that is a Christian. Like,
right.
We are not perfect.
We're not perfect. We gonna make
up,
mistakes, but
we mess up in churches is you put the pastor on that pedestal.
Come on
where
now, they can't make mistakes,
and that's not realistic.
And even if he did make a mistake, if you have a problem with him, you bring it up.
He's not untouchable.
You can touch this man. Like, you can tell him, "Hey, bro, listen, what you said last week didn't make sense to me. Can we talk about it?"
Can we not question Jesus sometimes?
Come on now. And he even invites us to do it. He invites that. He's like, "Question me." I mean, mind you, when he said it to Job, he was being sarcastic about it. But still, he's like, "No, if you got the questions, here it go. But here it is. I got some questions too." That's what God said. Where were you when I created the world? Where were you when I put the seas in place? I mean, if you want to go there, let's go there. And so his word. But God invites it. That's why if people would get out of these typical, if I walk through the valley of the shadow of death things, like the quotes that everybody knows, and really read Psalms, they would see half the Psalms are depressing. Like, half of them are sad. Some of them don't even end with a good ending. Like, they just like he says, like, death is my only friend, and that's how the Psalm ends. Like, half the Psalms are full of doubt, and God puts it there to show us we're going to have questions. We're going to have problems. We're going to have issues. But it doesn't mean...
doubt things. We're going to wonder about things. We're not going to agree with some things. That's normal.
That's normal.
That's normal.
But it's an invitation to talk. And I think that's what's been lost in this culture that we live in. And mind you, let's keep it a buck. It's been this way for centuries.
Yeah.
This isn't a new phenomenon. Pastors have been put on these pedestals and made to feel as if they
like
can't
kings.
be. Yeah. Then take it all the way back to the Roman Catholicism. We turn them into kings, turn them into these, these royal priesthood people, and then made them untouchable to where you can't question anything they do. And it's like, no, that's what you're supposed to do, because we're all Christians. We're all in the same boat, trying to making it to the same heaven because we're saved. I ain't gonna say we're trying to make it to heaven. We're making it to heaven because we're saved. But we're still being sanctified by one degree of glory to the next. And because of that, it is okay to question when things aren't going the way you think that they should be going.
And, yeah, I mean,
question it.
Even then, even if not just the way we think they're going, but if you don't know, like, if you don't know why
are we doing
done,
what we're doing?
Like, we tell our girls all the time, like, ask us questions. Sometimes it may get on our nerves, but I would rather you ask us the questions and then you be led the right way than you go out and wonder something. What?
It's just like with the dude who was wondering why we took the flags out the church.
Mm-hmm.
I sat him down and I said, and he was like, "Why are we doing this?" I said, "Give me a moment, because I know why I'm doing it, but I want to be able to give it to you straight. So give me a minute to really flesh out what I believe to be true, and then let's have a conversation about it, and let me tell you where we're landing on it." And so did that, and here it is, and it's like, so now do you just straight up have an attitude because you're so bent on being a military head that you need to see those flags because you're military based? Or can you lay your pride aside for the simple fact of the matter that when we're in this sanctuary, there is no America. There is no Christian flag. It's just God's kingdom. It's the kingdom. This space that we're dedicating to the Lord or whatever is the kingdom. And because we want it to represent the kingdom, we don't want to give anybody any opportunity to be frustrated with what we're doing because they think we might represent something other than that. And, once again, okay. Dude, no, talk to me. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what you're thinking. Well, you're just going to do what you want to do. That's not the point. Even if that's the case, I still want to hear what you have to say, because you might be able to convince me to put them back in the sanctuary.
You might have a different perspective that
I don't have.
Yeah, that we
but
don't
you said,
have.
like, now you're harboring your anger, harboring your frustration over a flag because of your military background. It ain't got nothing to do with God.
And that's why we need transparency in the church, because you may think that, the pastor is doing something because he just wants to, but a lot of times that may not be the case. Or pastor, you may think that, a member is, upset just because of one reason, but you won't know these things if you don't communicate. With one another. And that is so important.
Communicate.
You have got to communicate with one another in church. Like marriage, you have got to communicate.
Like, oh my
If
gosh.
you don't communicate,
got to communicate.
You're not going to know anything. You're just going to go assuming things and thinking one thing, but it's really another. And so then you misfire things, and then things get crossed, then you get upset, you're mad, and it could have just been all avoided with communication.
All could have been avoided.
That, I think that's my biggest thing, and that's the biggest thing with me is communication.
And ironically, it was with me too. And so that's why it was so frustrating. It was so frustrating, and mind you, I had my own little issues with it. Thank God, but thank the Lord, we worked through ourselves.
Thank God. That's why I don't like. I don't like what we had to go through, and I don't like what all transpired from it. But I do thank God for it, because following that, it did, that wasn't what created a lot of things that happened, but it had a little
I'll say it like this. I think that had we been busy with church, we wouldn't have been able to deal with what we needed to deal with.
Yeah.
I feel like that needed to be taken off the table. Let's push that to the side.
I'm grateful for what happened.
We're not busy. Now we're not busy.
Now let's deal with what God may be wanting us to really deal with.
Because we could mask a lot of things with working for the Lord.
Yes.
My whole salvation at 16 was predicated upon doing something. I realized that about 3 months ago, and I don't know if I've told you this before. Maybe if I have, then I probably figured it out and then forgot. I forget that I figured it out. But when I was 16, I was starting a Bible study at my school. And because I was starting the Bible study at my school, I was like, oh, do I even have a relationship with God? Well, I need to have that first before I can teach this Bible study. So I got saved. But I only got saved to teach the Bible study. So my whole relationship with God, even then, was predicated upon doing something.
And that's where we fall short with the church. Within church is when you get saved, let's do something. You can't. I feel like you can't do that.
How many preachers have said, I got saved and I'm immediately in the pulpit? Immediately wanting to preach for the Lord. Now, mind you, again, it can happen if that's what God wants. I'm not saying anything that it can't. But it also says in Scripture, don't let nobody young get in the pulpit right away, because pride has the power to pull them and make them think that this ministry game is just a series of church hopping to get to the ideal plateau of where they want to be. And a lot of pastors and a lot of ministers I see out there now, again, no knock against them, do what you do, but I often wonder, where is your faith really? And how many people, by God's providence, because He does what He does, but how many people had to be hurt by your ministry before you got it right? Because that's what I think about a lot. How many people were hurt before I got the gospel right? How many people did I lead astray from the gospel of Jesus Christ? From the true gospel. I gave them something, but was it really the gospel? I can't say whether it was or wasn't. Thank God they heard it. I just hope that they were able to do something with it other than get rich or, be prosperous or get praise is the way to get your blessings and stuff. Like, how many people that I hurt by preaching a faulty gospel, but I was sure on fire for the Lord, right? And so that's what I think about a lot. Like, how many of these people are we leading astray because we put them to work so fast instead of really looking at their hearts and allowing God to really get in there and show them who He is. Like, not, let's get you to work and get you to pay your tithes and do all this other stuff, but it's like, no, let's look at your heart. Yeah. Are you truly a believer? Do you really believe this stuff? What are you believing it for? Because a lot of people are in church today because they want to be entrepreneurs. A lot of people are in church today because they want to be politicians. A lot of people, a lot of people.
Come on, in church because they're trying to get away from something.
Come on now.
And the thing is, what we have to realize as a church, you can't get away from your problems.
You can't get away from your problems by just coming to church.
You can't get away from the world.
You gotta confront that.
You live in it.
You gotta confront it.
And
you gotta confront it.
No, church is not a place where you come to escape.
No,
because you're gonna have to go back out. It's where you come to learn these things on how, when you go back out, how can you respond differently than how you've been responding? How can you maybe receive things differently than how you've been receiving them? How can you be the light? You know what I'm saying?
Come on now.
That's where that's what you're coming for. Like, we can't escape our problems. We can't escape, the things out in that world, because it's gonna find you. We are in a sinful world
where broken people do
broken things, and baby, we're all broken.
Yes.
Like, no one's perfect. You know what I'm saying? But
for that reason, I can say, for myself, that for like the past year and some change, like, I felt ashamed of the gospel, because for me, I was so tired of the pain that came. I was so tired of dealing with the pain that came with change, the pain that came with the rejection, being rejected, so pained by those experiences that I was tired of sharing the gospel. Like, for at this point, it's just like, for what? Because it seems like in the world that I live in this small rural area, if I share the gospel with somebody, it's going to come with a lot of hurt, because people aren't ready for it, and the people who need to hear it the most are the ones who aren't getting it, and it's too many times where I end up pained because of it, and I put myself in the way. No doubt about that. I put myself in the way and didn't allow God to really, minister to my heart and remind me that, hey, just like He says in the book of Samuel, don't worry about that. They're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. And because they're rejecting me, you keep doing what you're doing. You keep preaching the gospel. You keep teaching the gospel. But instead, I got so furious with, and so afraid of just being hurt again, that I was ashamed for a while. But as I think we can see, and I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, instead I'm asking God for the strength to no longer be ashamed of the gospel. Somebody want to come in and talk.
Are we doing that?
I don't know who we're doing today. Do we want to do that today? I don't know who we're doing that today.
Let's see what it says.
Okay.
Go ahead, keep going.
But that's it. It's like, that's the thing that I've been having to pray to God about over the course of the past few months now. Is like, help me to overcome the fear of being ashamed of the gospel. I don't want to be ashamed of it anymore. I don't want to be ashamed of preaching the gospel. I don't want to fear rejection so much that I am not proclaiming your name, that I'm not saying what I know to be true, that I'm not standing up in these arenas that I stand in from one day to the next and not preaching your truth. not sharing your truth, not living your truth. And so I can only hope and pray that, that I'm great. I say it like this. I'm grateful that my faith, that God has carried me through the darkness. Because it was dark for a while. But even in the darkness of the valley of the shadow of death, I didn't have any fear because I knew God was still with me.
I didn't mean it didn't hurt.
Yeah, it did, right. Like pain, tears, and snot.
You still feel that.
Felt a lot of stuff. But I always knew he's here. And so though it's been the dark night of the soul for me for a while, and thank God for people like Aaron, for you, some of my friends, like thank God, that people were still like here. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful that God didn't stop loving me and carried me through all of this, so that way we can be here today to be able to just speak the truth and let people know that, yeah, we went through a pretty tough time there. But that tough time, and that tough time hurt. And it hurt so bad that, it did some real damage to our souls. But God still reigns on the throne.
Yeah. So, I do want to say that I'm very proud of you for, finally coming forward with, everything that happened and how you felt and how it's important for, the church to, to look at yourself, look at yourself and how you treat people and how, what you say to people, how, what you're doing, because it really does, especially if you're in that leadership position, it plays a major part in who comes, who stays, and how it's going to go about. Like we talk so much about not wanting to bring worldly things into the church, but you have people who are worldly, who are trying to come in, searching, not really knowing what they're searching for, but it's our job to give them Jesus,
yes.
Not to
the
judge them.
Unadulterated Jesus.
Not to judge them and, not to criticize them, not to talk about them behind their back, but to love them. And so, I just pray that, if you are doing that, look at yourself and ask yourself, why? Ask those questions. Why are you there? Don't be afraid to ask questions. I am so for asking questions. Like, I know it may be intimidating sometimes to ask those questions, but there are so many forms and so many ways that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It's important. Communicate, talk, be transparent. It may be scary sometimes, but when you communicate and when you get it out, a lot of times it's not as bad as you think it would have been. And if it is, then to God be the glory that is out. Like, even if it is as bad as you thought it was going to be, for some, in my experience, still just getting it out, it's just a relief, because you're not holding on to that. Yeah. And that's detrimental to your soul. That's what I mean by protecting yourself, protecting your soul. And so, as leadership, like you are trying to lead a whole bunch of souls. And so, it's really important.
Souls.
Yeah.
Souls.
Yeah. And so that's really important. Communicate.
Yeah.
So.
One thing I can say as we get ready, I guess, to wrap it up, is that no matter what was going on through that experience, one thing that never changed about us is that we were always going to tell them the truth. And no matter how much flack we got for that, even so much as being accused of being a part of the KKK. At the oldest black church in the city, being accused of No, listen. I'm calling it out. It's call a spade a spade.
Or not.
We are calling a spade a spade. That's what we went through. That's how bad it was. But even in spite of that, we never shied away from the truth. Never was ashamed of the gospel, and we never told them anything other than. And like I said, it cost me the pastorate. Thank God. Yeah, but it didn't cost me my soul. Like I said, we went through a lot of bumps and bruises, to the point where even when the next church called me, I was like, you know what? Nah. Nah. I am not ready to do this again. A lot of echoes. We're not ready to go through this again. I cannot do this again. Nah. I never forget that dude showed up. Nope. I'm good. I am good.
Echoes are real people.
I am good. So it's just not in a good headspace, heart space to be able to do that again. But again, even there for that brief amount of time that we were there, we're still giving them Jesus. The pure, unadulterated Jesus. Like I can say that one Sunday school we had where that one lady, she asked a question and we stopped Sunday school to answer that question. And we stayed on that question and the subsequent questions that followed for the rest of Sunday school. Didn't even finish the lesson. That's church.
What matters in the moment? Like what is the soul seeking in the moment? Forget about the
protocol.
Forget about the schedule. Like what
in this moment you ask this question, and we need to.
And you can't let up on it. The soul is really wanting to know. It's something. I don't know.
You went out of your way.
You or somebody else.
You pressed your way and found the courage to speak in the correct forum, because this was a Sunday school. This wasn't church, even though I still think some little nuance where you can,
another day.
No, another day. But yeah. So, but still, in that moment, we stopped what we were doing to answer that question, and that question led to questions, and so we stayed on that. That's what church is supposed to be, because no telling what liberation she got from hearing the gospel be preached in that moment. And so it's like, so even in that, it reminds my heart that this word is real. The word is real. Jesus is real. And if we have the lens through which to see the truth, it is imperative that we share it. Even if it leads to what it led to in the past, where the ones who are not going to hear it will be deafened and hardened by the very truth that's meant to set them free. I thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free on TikTok, I'm on Therapy with Eddie D. Feel free to DM me, questions or comments or anything that you may have. If there's, again, we kind of figuring out what this podcast really is going to be. So if you have any, we do know that. So if you have any topics, any questions, any concerns, comments, feel free again to DM me there. And then as we move forward with what this is going to be, we hope to build its own page and be able to do its own thing there. Again, just thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And we look forward to doing this again soon. All right. Love you guys. Peace out.